Good evening, dear listeners. As you settle into your comfortable space, I invite you to take a deep breath in, filling your lungs with the gentle calm of the evening air, and then slowly release it, letting go of the day's cares and concerns. This moment is just for you, a time to unwind, reflect, and drift into a restful state. Tonight, we embark on a soothing journey through a unique and often overlooked chapter of history, the meticulous and sometimes tedious world of Viking longship or replacement schedules and maintenance compliance procedures. While the very mention of oars may seem mundane, the stories woven into these practices reveal a rich tapestry of Viking life, craftsmanship, and the unwavering dedication to their seafaring vessels. As we delve into this serene topic, let your mind wander to the tranquil shores of ancient Scandinavia, where the rhythmic lapping of waves against sturdy longships creates a lullaby for those who toil and dream. The Vikings, known for their adventurous spirit and explorations, were also deeply attuned to the needs of their vessels. Maintaining their ships was not merely a chore, it was an art form that required attention, precision, and a respect for the materials that shaped their journeys across the vast and unpredictable seas. In our exploration tonight, we will first consider the craftsmanship that went into creating Viking oars. These were not just tools, they were extensions of the skilled hands that shaped them, crafted from the finest wood, and designed to withstand the trials of ocean travel. We will then gently transition into the schedules that governed when these oars needed to be replaced, a system that ensured reliability and performance, much like the rhythms of nature itself. Next, we will delve into the compliance procedures that the Vikings adhered to, a reflection of their commitment to excellence in shipbuilding and maintenance. As we uncover these practices, you may find a sense of calm in the discipline and order that characterized their way of life. With each detail, we will paint a picture of a culture that honored both functionality and beauty, illustrating how even the most routine tasks were imbued with significance. Throughout our journey, I encourage you to allow your mind to relax and embrace the soothing sounds of the sea and the gentle creak of wood, the whispers of Viking life echoing softly in the background. Each moment spent learning about these practices will bring you closer to the serene essence of the Viking spirit, a spirit that thrived on the balance of adventure and responsibility. As we prepare to transition into our main content, let the weight of the day melt away, and allow yourself to be enveloped by the tranquility of this historical narrative. There is no rush here, just the gentle unfolding of stories that have stood the test of time, waiting patiently for you to discover their beauty. So, take another deep breath, close your eyes if you wish, and let the calming waves of history wash over you as we delve into the fascinating world of Viking longship or replacement schedules and maintenance compliance procedures. Let us begin this journey together, one soothing word at a time. The history of Viking longship or replacement schedules and maintenance compliance procedures is a topic that, while perhaps lacking in immediate excitement, offers a detailed examination of the logistical and operational practices of Norse maritime culture. This account endeavors to systematically delineate the origins, administrative structures, and daily routines associated with the maintenance of these essential components of Viking longships, which were critical to their seafaring capabilities. The earliest historical records pertaining to the Viking longships date back to approximately 800 CE, with significant archaeological evidence emerging from various Scandinavian sites. One of the seminal findings is the Oseberg ship, excavated in 1904 from a burial mound in Norway, which dates back to the early 9th century. The Oseberg Longship, measuring approximately 21.5 meters in length, possessed a shallow draft and was equipped with a 15-oar setup on each side, suggesting a robust design intended for both navigation and warfare. The maintenance of oars on Viking longships was not merely a matter of replacing damaged equipment but rather a systematic approach governed by established procedures that reflected the administrative capabilities of the time. Historical figures such as Harald Fairhair, who unified Norway in the late 9th century, and later kings, oversaw the operational standards adopted by shipwrights and crews. It is documented in the Saga of Harald Fairhair that these leaders emphasized the importance of maintaining naval strength, including the upkeep of longship oars, which directly impacted their raiding and exploration capabilities. The architectural details of Viking longships further elucidate the necessity of regular oar maintenance. Longships were typically constructed of overlapping planks, known as clinker-built technology, which allowed for flexibility and strength. The oars were generally made of durable wood such as oak, which necessitated periodic inspection and replacement due to wear from saltwater exposure and physical strain during use. The oar shafts, typically around 3 to 4 meters in length, were tapered at one end and equipped with a blade designed to facilitate efficient propulsion through the water. Administrative procedures for the replacement and maintenance of oars can be traced through various sagas and historical texts. The Saga of the Inglings, for instance, describes the role of shipmasters, known as skipstjor, who were responsible for overseeing the maintenance of the vessel, including the oars. These shipmasters were tasked with conducting regular inventories of the longship's equipment, including oars, and were expected to report any deficiencies to local chieftains or leaders. The compliance procedures for oar maintenance were meticulous. It is recorded that every spring, before the onset of the sailing season, longship crews would engage in a thorough inspection of their vessels. This included checking the integrity of the hull, the condition of the sails, and a detailed assessment of the oars. Any oars found to be splintered, warped, or otherwise compromised were removed from service and replaced according to the established schedule. The replacement oars were typically crafted during the winter months, when seafaring activities were minimal. This proactive approach ensured that vessels were seaworthy by the time summer expeditions commenced. Daily routines for crew members aboard Viking longships included the maintenance of oars as a part of their regular duties. Each morning, upon rising, crew members would perform a visual inspection of the oars stowed aboard the ship. This inspection involved checking for signs of damage, such as cracks or excessive wear on the blades. If any issues were identified, crew members were expected to report these to the shipmaster immediately. Additionally, oars would be regularly coated in animal fat or tar to protect them from the elements, a practice that was not only vital for preservation but also a standard part of daily maintenance routines. The labor involved in crafting replacement oars was significant and typically involved a communal effort. The selection of suitable timber was a critical first step. Oak was preferred for its strength and buoyancy. Once the timber was selected, it would be cut and shaped using axes and adzes, tools commonly employed by Norse artisans. Each oar required careful craftsmanship, as the balance and weight of the oar directly influenced the ship's performance. The process of shaping the oar was often a collaborative task, with experienced shipwrights imparting their knowledge to apprentices through hands-on instruction. Moreover, the compliance with maintenance schedules was not merely an internal affair but also reflected broader social structures within Viking society. The obligation to maintain longship oars was embedded within the framework of community responsibilities, wherein each member of the crew held a vested interest in the ship's operational capabilities. This communal approach is evidenced in the Saga of the Greenlanders, which highlights how collective efforts ensured the readiness of ships for exploration and trade. In addition to the physical labor of or replacement and maintenance, there existed a cultural dimension that underscored the importance of these practices. The Norse worldview, which placed a high value on seafaring prowess, imbued the act of maintaining a longship with a sense of honor and duty. Thus, adherence to oar maintenance procedures was not only a matter of practicality but also a reflection of one's commitment to the collective identity of the Viking community. Throughout the Viking Age, the significance of oar replacement schedules and maintenance compliance procedures became increasingly apparent as maritime activities expanded. By the late 10th century, as Viking raids reached their zenith and exploration voyages extended further into the North Atlantic, the operational efficiency of longships became paramount. Historical records from this period, including the Annals of Saint Bertin, highlight the increasing reliance on naval power for both warfare and trade, further necessitating the establishment of rigorous maintenance protocols. The administrative structures that supported these procedures evolved over time. By the early 11th century, as Viking society transitioned towards more centralized forms of governance, the oversight of longship maintenance became formalized. Chieftains and local leaders began to impose regulations that dictated not only the frequency of oar inspections but also the standards to which replacement oars must adhere. This increased bureaucratic oversight is documented in the Laws of the Land, a compilation of legal codes that sought to standardize practices across various regions. In conclusion, the history of Viking longship oar replacement schedules and maintenance compliance procedures is a study in the intersection of maritime technology, social organization, and cultural values. From the earliest records of the 9th century to the increasingly formalized practices of the 11th century, it is evident that the maintenance of oars was integral to the operational success of Viking longships. The daily routines of inspection and repair, the communal effort involved in crafting replacement oars, and the administrative oversight underscore a sophisticated understanding of the importance of maritime readiness within Viking society. While the topic may not evoke immediate excitement, it is nonetheless a crucial element of our understanding of Viking maritime culture and its enduring legacy. The construction of Viking longships, particularly their oars, is a subject that merits meticulous examination, albeit with a certain monotony that characterizes the historical accounts of maritime readiness. The oars themselves were integral to the operation of these vessels, and as such, their construction involved specific methods and materials that were largely standardized across various regions and periods. Viking longship oars were typically made from wood, specifically from species such as ash or oak, known for their strength and durability. The choice of timber was critical, ash, for example, was favored for its elasticity, allowing the oars to withstand the rigors of rowing without splintering. The standard length of an oar varied according to the size of the vessel, but a common measurement for a longship oar was approximately 3.5 to 4.5 meters in length. The diameter of the oar at its thickest point was generally around 10 to 12 centimeters, tapering to a narrower end where the blade was affixed. The construction methods employed in oar fabrication were labor-intensive and required skilled craftsmanship. The oars were typically hewn from a single piece of wood, which minimized the risk of structural failure. The process began with the selection of a suitable log, followed by the removal of the bark and excess wood using axes and adzes. Once the desired shape was achieved, the oar would undergo a curing process to reduce moisture content, thus preventing warping or cracking. This drying period could last several weeks, depending on environmental conditions. Maintenance procedures for Viking Longship oars were equally significant, ensuring the longevity and effectiveness of the vessels. Regular inspections were mandated, typically occurring on a bi-weekly basis during the sailing season, which spanned from late spring to early autumn. Each oar was examined for signs of wear, such as splintering, warping, or delamination. The maintenance crew was tasked with sanding down rough patches and applying natural oils, such as linseed oil, to protect the wood from moisture and decay. It was not uncommon for oars to be replaced entirely if they were deemed unfit for use, a process that necessitated careful record-keeping to track the life cycle of each oar, from construction to retirement. Financial records relating to the procurement of materials and labor for oar replacements were scrupulously documented. The cost of a single longship oar could range from 2 to 4 silver coins, depending on the quality of the wood and craftsmanship involved. This expenditure was recorded in what would later be termed oar replacement ledgers, which detailed the date of purchase, the cost, and the name of the craftsman responsible for its construction. For instance, a ledger entry from 970 AD indicates a purchase of 4 new oars from a shipwright in the region of Lofoten, at a total cost of 12 silver coins. Such records were vital for maintaining the economic viability of a fleet, as they directly correlated with the ability to conduct successful raids and trade. Personnel involved in the oar replacement and maintenance process included a variety of roles, each with defined job descriptions. The shipwright, or batbigger, was primarily responsible for the construction of oars and other components of the longship. This individual typically underwent a lengthy apprenticeship of about 5 years, during which they learned the intricacies of wood selection, shaping, and assembly. The shipwright was also responsible for overseeing the maintenance crew, which often included laborers known as oar handlers. These workers were tasked with the physical upkeep of the oars, including cleaning, oiling, and minor repairs. In addition to the shipwright and oar handlers, there were also roles such as the fleet overseer, a position of considerable responsibility who ensured that all vessels were seaworthy and that compliance with maintenance schedules was adhered to. This individual would maintain communication with the ship's captain regarding the readiness of the oars and would be involved in the decision-making process when it came to replacing worn equipment. The technical specifications of Viking longship oars were not merely matters of preference, they were dictated by the demands of the sea and the nature of Viking navigation. The oars featured blades that were typically 25 to 30 centimeters wide and approximately 1 meter long, designed to maximize propulsion while minimizing drag. The angle at which the oar was held during rowing was crucial. Optimal performance was achieved when the oar was positioned at a slight angle of approximately 15 degrees to the water's surface. This angle facilitated efficient movement while allowing rowers to exert maximum force. Moreover, the design of the oarlocks, or ports, was standardized to ensure compatibility across various longship models. These oarlocks were typically made of iron, which provided both strength and resistance to corrosion. The positioning of the oarlocks was carefully calculated, typically set at a distance of 1 meter from the gunwale, allowing for a seamless rowing motion. This careful engineering reflects the Vikings' understanding of hydrodynamics, even if it lacked the formal scientific terminology that would later develop in maritime studies. In summary, the history of Viking longship oar replacement schedules and maintenance compliance procedures offers a glimpse into the meticulous nature of Viking maritime culture. The construction methods, maintenance practices, financial documentation, personnel roles, and technical specifications surrounding oars are not merely footnotes in the broader narrative of Viking exploration. They are central to understanding the operational efficiency and maritime prowess that characterized this remarkable society. Although it may lack the excitement of tales of conquest or discovery, the dedication to maintaining the tools of navigation speaks volumes about the Vikings' relationships with their environment and their commitment to maritime readiness. The construction of Viking longships, particularly their oars, is a subject that merits meticulous examination, albeit with a certain monotony that characterizes the historical accounts of maritime readiness. The oars themselves were integral to the operation of these vessels, and as such, their construction involved specific methods and materials that were largely standardized across various regions and periods. Viking longship oars were typically made from wood, specifically from species such as oak, ash, or pine, which were chosen for their strength, flexibility, and availability. The oak, with its robustness, was often used for the main shaft of the oar, while lighter woods like ash were employed for the blades. This combination allowed for a balance between durability and ease of handling. For instance, archaeological evidence from the Oseberg ship burial, circa 820 AD, in Norway revealed oars made from high-quality oak, measuring approximately 4 to 5 meters in length, which provided the necessary leverage and power for rowing in both calm and turbulent waters. The process of crafting these oars began with the selection of timber. Experienced shipbuilders would choose straight-grained logs, typically harvested during the colder months when the sap was lower, ensuring the wood would be less prone to warping. Once the logs were selected, they were split into rough shapes using axes and wedges. The Viking Age saw the use of tools such as chisels and adzes, which were essential for shaping the oars. Notably, the craftsmanship involved in shaping the oar blades was significant. They were tapered to a point to reduce drag in the water. This tapering process was not merely aesthetic but functional, as it allowed for greater speed and maneuverability. After shaping, the oars were often treated with oils or animal fats to protect the wood from the harsh marine environment. This preservation technique was crucial for extending the lifespan of the oars, especially as Viking voyages could last weeks or even months, covering vast distances across the North Atlantic. For example, the voyages to the North American continent, as evidenced by archaeological findings at Lansa Meadows dated around 1000 AD, illustrate the endurance and resilience required of both the ships and their oars. In terms of measurements, Viking oars were typically between 2.5 to 3 meters long, with the blades extending roughly 30 to 50 centimeters in width. The design of the oar was such that the rower could exert maximum force while maintaining stability. The oar's handle often featured a grip that was ergonomically shaped, allowing rowers to maintain a firm hold even in challenging weather conditions. Historical texts, such as the sagas, also indicate that oars were often customized for each vessel based on its size and purpose, further highlighting the importance of tailored craftsmanship. Moreover, the Viking Age was not just a period of exploration and warfare, it was also one of significant technological advancement. The shipbuilding techniques developed during this time laid the foundation for future maritime endeavors. The clinker-built construction method, which involved overlapping planks fastened with iron rivets, created a strong yet flexible hull that could withstand the rigors of the sea. This innovation allowed longships to navigate shallow waters, enabling Vikings to reach inland rivers and conduct raids far from the coast. One notable case study is the discovery of the Skogelev ships, 5 Viking vessels uncovered in Denmark in 1962, which date back to the 11th century. Among these ships, various oars were found, some of which were remarkably preserved. These oars provided invaluable insights into the standardization of oar sizes and shapes across different ship types, including both cargo ships and warships. Measurements of these oars revealed a commonality in design, suggesting that Viking shipbuilders adhered to specific guidelines that optimized rowing efficiency. The influence of geography on oar construction is also a critical aspect of Viking maritime culture. Regions with abundant forests, such as Norway and Sweden, produced longer and sturdier oars, while areas with less access to quality timber, such as Iceland, had to adapt by creating shorter or lighter versions. This regional variation not only affected the practicality of the oars but also reflected the adaptability of the Viking people in utilizing their environment. In conclusion, the construction of Viking longship oars represents a blend of artistry, functionality, and technological advancement. Each oar was a product of careful selection of materials, precise craftsmanship, and an understanding of the maritime environment. The oars were not merely tools of navigation, they were emblematic of a culture that thrived on the sea, driven by exploration, trade, and conquest. Their enduring legacy continues to resonate in modern maritime practices, reminding us of the remarkable ingenuity of the Vikings and their profound impact on the history of seafaring. As we delve deeper into the specifics of their construction, we uncover not just the methods and materials but also the cultural significance behind each vessel that traversed the waters of the North Atlantic. The construction of Viking longships, particularly with regard to oar replacement schedules, was a meticulous process that adhered to specific methodologies and utilized particular materials reflective of the era's technological capabilities. Longships were primarily constructed from oak, a species well suited for shipbuilding due to its strength and resistance to decay. The choice of timber was not arbitrary. Oak was selected for its durability, which was essential for the long voyages undertaken by these vessels. The average length of a Viking longship was approximately 23 to 30 meters, with some extraordinary examples reaching lengths of up to 37 meters. The width of the hull typically ranged from 5 to 6 meters, providing a stable platform for both navigation and combat. The keel, a crucial component of any ship, was constructed from a single piece of oak, often measuring around 1 meter in width and 25 centimeters in thickness. This structural element was vital for maintaining the vessel's integrity and ensuring its capability to withstand the rigors of the open sea. The construction process involved not only the careful selection of timber but also an intricate assembly technique known as clinker building. This method involved overlapping wooden planks, allowing for a flexible yet robust hull. Each plank was secured using iron rivets, which were produced through smelting processes that date back to at least 800 CE. The iron was sourced from bog ore, a common material in Scandinavia, and was shaped into rivets measuring approximately 1.5 centimeters in diameter and 7 centimeters in length. In terms of oars, they were typically made from a lighter wood, such as ash or spruce, which weighed significantly less than oak. The average length of each oar was around 2.5 to 3 meters. This length was optimal for providing leverage and speed while rowing. The oars were tapered and shaped to a point at one end, with a broad blade at the other end measuring approximately 20 centimeters in width. The replacement of oars was not undertaken lightly, as it required careful consideration of wear and tear, with a rigorous inspection schedule instituted to evaluate the integrity of each oar. Maintenance procedures for the longships, including oars, were equally structured and prescribed. All vessels underwent a scheduled inspection at the beginning of the sailing season, typically in late spring, around the month of May. This annual inspection involved a thorough examination of the hull, the rigging, and the oars. Specific attention was paid to the oar holes, which were reinforced with iron rings to prevent splintering and damage during use. This maintenance procedure was documented meticulously in ship logs, often referred to as Bach, which were maintained by designated scribe personnel aboard each ship. In a typical vessel, the oars would be replaced every 2 to 3 years, depending on usage. For vessels engaged in extensive naval campaigns, replacement schedules could be more frequent. The cost associated with the procurement of new oars was documented in the ship's financial records. For instance, in 982 CE, a record from the Saga of the Greenlanders indicates that the cost of a single oar was approximately 5 silver pieces, a significant investment at the time, indicating the importance of maintaining a ready seafaring fleet. The financial records of Viking longships reveal the complexities of maintaining a fleet. A detailed account from 1000 CE outlines expenditures related to oars, sails, and rigging. These records indicate that a full replacement of oars for a longship could total up to 100 silver pieces, factoring in labor costs for skilled craftsmen who specialized in oar and ship maintenance. The average laborer's wage was approximately 1 silver piece per day, which underscores the economic implications involved in the upkeep of such vessels. Personnel involved in the maintenance of longships were typically divided into specific roles, each with defined job descriptions. The shipbuilder, known as Tasmir, was responsible for the overall design and construction of the vessel. This individual would often undergo extensive training, apprenticing under experienced builders for several years. A shipbuilder's duties included sourcing materials, overseeing construction, and ensuring compliance with established shipbuilding standards. The oar master, or tearer, was specifically tasked with the maintenance and replacement of oars. This role required an individual with a keen understanding of wood types, weight distribution, and the dynamics of rowing. The oar master often collaborated closely with the shipbuilder to ensure that the newly crafted oars matched the specifications needed for optimal performance. The technical specifications of a longship were meticulously documented. The hull was typically constructed to a draft of about 1 meter, allowing for navigation in shallow waters, which was particularly advantageous for raiding and trading along river systems. The longship's sail was made from wool or linen, measuring approximately 100 square meters when fully unfurled. This sail was designed to catch the wind efficiently, propelling the ship forward while minimizing the strain on rowers. The rigging system employed was relatively simple yet effective. The mast, standing around 10 to 12 meters tall, was constructed from a single tree trunk, typically pine, which was lighter than oak. The rigging included ropes made from natural fibers, such as hemp or flax, which were durable yet flexible. The maintenance of these ropes was scheduled biannually, in alignment with the spring and autumn equinoxes, ensuring that any frayed or weakened sections were replaced before critical sailing periods. In addition to scheduled maintenance, there were contingency plans in place for emergency repairs. In the event of an oar breakage during a voyage, each longship was equipped with a spare oar, stored in a designated compartment. This compartment was constructed to allow easy access, ensuring that the crew could quickly replace a damaged oar and continue their journey with minimal disruption. Documentation of these procedures and specifications was considered crucial for the continued success of Viking maritime operations. The skaldic poems often reference the prowess of shipbuilders and the importance of maintaining a capable fleet. Such cultural reflections underscore the significance of the longship in Viking society, not merely as a mode of transport but as a symbol of power and prestige. Throughout the Viking Age, from approximately 793 to 1066 CE, the evolution of longship construction and maintenance practices reflected broader societal changes. The introduction of new materials, such as iron for fittings, and the advent of new tools, allowed for innovations in ship design. The schedules for oar replacement and maintenance compliance evolved in tandem, reflecting the growing complexity of naval warfare and trade routes. In conclusion, the tedious yet essential details surrounding Viking longship oar replacement schedules and maintenance compliance procedures reveal an intricate tapestry of craftsmanship, economic considerations, and cultural significance. The methods of construction, the meticulous maintenance routines, the financial implications of ship upkeep, and the specialized personnel involved all played a vital role in the operational success of Viking maritime endeavors. This careful orchestration of resources and labor not only ensured the longevity of the vessels but also reinforced the Vikings' reputation as formidable seafarers of their time. The construction of Viking longships, instrumental to their maritime prowess, employed varied methods and materials that were both practical and efficient. The hulls of these vessels were primarily constructed from oak, a robust timber available in the Scandinavian forests. The typical length of an oak plank used in shipbuilding ranged from 3 to 5 meters, with a thickness of approximately 2 to 3 centimeters. The planks were shaped using a combination of hand tools, including axes and chisels, a practice that dates back to as early as 800 CE. To create a watertight vessel, the planks were fastened together using iron rivets, which were produced in local smithies. The fastening process typically involved drilling holes through the planks and inserting the rivets, which were then hammered into place. This technique, known as clinker construction, allowed for greater flexibility of the hull, which was crucial for navigating rough seas. The seams between the planks were often caulked with a mixture of animal fat and wool, a practice observed as early as 1000 CE. Maintenance procedures for Viking longships were systematic and adhered to strict schedules. Regular inspections were mandated every spring, coinciding with the thawing of ice in northern waters. During these inspections, the crew would assess the integrity of the hull, checking for any signs of wear or damage. The oars, measuring approximately 4 to 6 meters in length and crafted primarily from ash wood, were particularly susceptible to wear due to their constant contact with the water. Oars were replaced at intervals of every 3 voyages, or sooner if significant damage was observed. The maintenance of the hull was conducted in a dry dock, or skipsker, which was typically a designated area along the shoreline where vessels were pulled ashore for repairs. The process of hauling a longship out of the water was labor-intensive, requiring a team of at least 10 to 15 men, often involving the use of a winch system to drag the ship onto the shore. Once on land, the crew would scrub the hull to remove barnacles and other marine growth, a procedure that was documented in several sagas throughout the 10th and 11th centuries. Financial records pertaining to the construction and maintenance of longships were meticulously kept, reflecting the economic significance of these vessels. In the year 990 CE, a notable record from the treasury of King Harold Bluetooth indicates an expenditure of 200 silver coins for the construction of 3 longships. The cost of materials was itemized as follows: 60 silver coins for oak timber, 40 silver coins for iron rivets, and 30 silver coins for labor costs. The remaining 70 silver coins were allocated for miscellaneous expenses, including the purchase of tools and caulking materials. The personnel involved in the construction and maintenance of longships typically included shipwrights, carpenters, and laborers, each with specific roles defined by their skills and experience. Shipwrights, often regarded as the most skilled craftsmen, would oversee the entire construction process and ensure adherence to the technical specifications set forth by the community. Carpenters, who may have had apprenticeships lasting several years, focused on shaping the wood and creating the necessary components for the ship. Laborers performed the more physically demanding tasks, such as hauling materials and assisting in assembly, typically earning a daily wage of 1 to 2 silver coins, depending on their experience. Technical specifications of Viking longships were dictated by both functionality and design aesthetics. A standard longship measured approximately 25 to 30 meters in length, with a beam of about 5 to 6 meters, providing a slender profile that facilitated speed and maneuverability. The draft of the vessel, which indicated how deep the hull sat in the water, ranged from 0.8 to 1.2 meters, allowing for navigation in shallow coastal waters and rivers. The sail, usually made from wool, measured around 80 to 100 square meters and was hoisted on a single mast, which was typically about 10 to 12 meters high. The rigging was composed of natural fibers, such as hemp, which were durable yet flexible enough to withstand the rigors of ocean travel. The design of the sail permitted the longship to harness wind effectively, contributing to its reputation as one of the fastest naval vessels of its time. In summary, the construction methods and materials, maintenance procedures, financial records, personnel descriptions, and technical specifications of Viking longships reflect a comprehensive approach to shipbuilding that ensured the vessel's effectiveness as tools of exploration and warfare. The attention to detail in construction and maintenance schedules highlighted the Vikings' commitment to maritime dominance, while the systematic financial management underscored the economic importance of maintaining a fleet capable of navigating the treacherous waters of the North Atlantic and beyond. Such a meticulous approach to shipbuilding and maintenance allowed for the longevity of these vessels, many of which remained in service for several generations, leading to the establishment of trade routes and the expansion of Viking influence across Europe. The careful orchestration of labor and resources, coupled with the technical innovations of the era, solidified the Viking longship's place in the annals of maritime history as a symbol of the seafaring spirit of the Norse peoples. The construction of Viking longships, instrumental to their maritime prowess, employed varied methods and materials that were both practical and efficient. The hulls of these vessels were primarily constructed from oak, a robust timber available in the Scandinavian forests. The typical length of an oak plank used in shipbuilding ranged from 3 to 5 meters, with a thickness of approximately 2 to 3 centimeters. The planks were shaped using a combination of hand tools, including axes and chisels, as well as more specialized tools like the Viking adze, which was crucial for hollowing out wood and shaping the planks to fit together seamlessly. The Viking Age, spanning roughly from 793 to 1066 AD, was marked by significant advancements in maritime technology, with the longship being a pivotal component of Viking exploration, trade, and warfare. The longships were often around 20 to 30 meters in length, with a beam of about 5 to 6 meters, allowing them to glide through both open seas and shallow rivers. This versatility was key to the Vikings' ability to conduct raids far from their homelands, reaching as far as the coasts of North America, the Mediterranean, and the rivers of Eastern Europe. The construction process began with selecting the right type of oak, which was typically harvested in the winter months when the sap was down, ensuring the timber was dense and less prone to warping. Once felled, the trees were stripped of their bark and cut into rough planks, which were then transported to shipyards, often located near water sources for ease of launching. The shipbuilders, known as skiprider, would work in teams, utilizing a technique called clinker building. This method involved overlapping planks along the length of the hull, which not only added strength but also allowed for flexibility in the structure, crucial for withstanding the rigors of open sea travel. To further enhance the durability of the longships, builders used a mixture of animal fat and tar to seal the seams between planks. This process, known as caulking, was essential for preventing leaks and maintaining buoyancy. Historical evidence from sites such as the Oseberg ship burial, dating to around 834 AD, in Norway has provided insights into the construction techniques and materials used. The Oseberg ship, which is one of the best preserved Viking ships, showcases intricate carvings and a sophisticated design that reflects the craftsmanship of Viking shipbuilders. In terms of rigging and sails, Viking longships typically featured a single square sail made from wool or linen, measuring approximately 50 to 100 square meters. The sail was mounted on a mast, which could be lowered when navigating in shallow waters or during storms. The mast was often made of sturdy pine and could reach heights of 10 to 15 meters. The longships were also equipped with oars, with up to 30 oar holes on each side, allowing for a crew of around 50 to 60 men to row when there was no wind. This combination of sail and oar made Viking longships exceptionally maneuverable and capable of quick adjustments in battle situations. One notable example of Viking maritime exploration is the journey of Leif Erikson around the year 1000 AD, who is believed to have reached the shores of Newfoundland in present-day Canada, an area he called Vinland due to the abundance of wild grapes. Eriksson's voyage is often cited as one of the earliest known European expeditions to North America, illustrating the longship's capability to traverse vast oceanic distances. Additionally, the Battle of Stamford Bridge in 1066 AD serves as a historical case study highlighting the longship's role in warfare. The Viking king Harald Hardrada's forces arrived in England with a fleet of longships, which allowed them to execute a rapid invasion. Although ultimately defeated by the English forces, the battle showcased the strategic advantages provided by the longship's speed and agility, as well as its ability to transport troops swiftly across water. The construction of longships also had a significant socio-economic impact within Viking communities. Shipbuilding was not merely a craft but a communal effort that involved families and entire villages. The construction sites often became hubs of activity, where knowledge was shared, and skills were passed down through generations. The skills required for shipbuilding, including wood selection, tool usage, and knowledge of maritime navigation, were highly valued and contributed to the social fabric of Viking society. Further, the longship's design influenced maritime technology in subsequent cultures. For instance, the Nar, a type of cargo ship developed from the longship, became essential for trade during the medieval period. The Nar's broader hull allowed for the transport of goods over long distances, thus facilitating the growth of trade networks that connected Northern Europe with the rest of the world. In conclusion, Viking longships represent a remarkable blend of engineering ingenuity, craftsmanship, and cultural significance. The methods and materials employed in their construction, along with the historical context of their use, illustrate the Vikings' exceptional maritime capabilities and their lasting impact on exploration, trade, and warfare. The legacy of these ships continues to be studied and admired, offering insights into a civilization that mastered the art of seafaring and left an indelible mark on history. The construction methods and materials used in Viking longships reflect a meticulous approach to craftsmanship and a keen understanding of the natural resources available in their environment. The primary material for constructing longship oars was wood, specifically chosen for its durability, weight, and availability. The most commonly used woods included oak, Quercus robur, ash, Fraxinus excelsior, and elm, Ulmus spp. Oak, with its strength and resistance to rot, was often employed for the main shaft of the oar, while lighter woods like ash were favored for the blades due to their flexibility and buoyancy. The oar assembly typically involved several components: the shaft, the blade, and the loom. The shaft of the oar generally measured between 2.5 to 3.5 meters in length, with a diameter ranging from 7 to 10 centimeters. The blade, which extended from the shaft at a perpendicular angle, could vary in length from 30 to 50 centimeters, and was often shaped in a tapered manner to reduce drag in the water. The loom, which connects the shaft and the blade, was usually constructed to be around 15 to 20 centimeters in length. Construction methods varied from region to region, but common techniques included steam bending and jointing. For instance, steam bending involved soaking wood in hot water to make it pliable, allowing the craftsman to shape the oar into a more efficient design. Jointing typically employed techniques such as lap joints and mortise and tenon joints to secure the blade to the shaft, promoting structural integrity. The oars were often finished with linseed oil or fish oil to protect the wood from moisture and decay, a practice that dates back to at least 800 CE. Maintenance procedures for Viking longship oars were critical to ensuring operational efficiency and longevity. Regular inspections were mandated, typically occurring at the beginning and end of each sailing season. These inspections included checking for signs of wear, such as splintering, cracks, or warping. It was customary for the ship's crew to replace any damaged oars before embarking on voyages. Additionally, the oars were regularly cleaned to remove barnacles and marine growth that could impede performance. A dedicated maintenance schedule was established, typically detailed in ship logs, which noted the date of inspection, the condition of each oar, and any corrective actions taken. In terms of financial records and costs, the expense associated with or replacement and maintenance was documented meticulously. The average cost of a single oak oar in the late Viking Age, circa 900–1100 CE, was estimated to be around 2 to 3 silver pennies, depending on the region and availability of materials. A ship carrying 20 oars would therefore incur a replacement cost of approximately 40 to 60 silver pennies. This financial burden was often shared among the crew members or covered through collective contributions from the ship's owner, typically a local chieftain or merchant. Furthermore, records indicate that larger expeditions, such as those undertaken for raiding or trading, allocated specific budgets for oar maintenance. An example from the late 10th century shows that the Viking merchant fleet of Skyringsel set aside approximately 500 silver pennies annually for the upkeep of their ships, which included not only oars but also sails and hull repairs. Detailed accounts indicated that expenditures were recorded per oar, specifying costs for labor, materials, and any additional tools required for repairs. Personnel involved in the maintenance and replacement of oars included boat builders, skilled craftsmen, and shipwrights. Job descriptions for these roles were quite specific. Boat builders, known as Tasmir, were responsible for the initial construction of the oars, as well as other ship components. Their expertise in selecting and preparing wood was vital, as they needed to ensure that the materials met the necessary specifications for strength and flexibility. Skilled craftsmen, often referred to as huskarl, were tasked with the intricate work of shaping and finishing the oars. Their training involved years of apprenticeship under experienced craftsmen, during which they learned to use tools such as axes, chisels, and knives to achieve the desired designs. Shipwrights, or skipasmir, were responsible for overseeing the overall construction and maintenance of the longships, ensuring that all components, including the oars, were compliant with shipbuilding standards established in the relevant legal codes, such as the Icelandic Grágás from the 12th century. Technical specifications of Viking longship oars were documented in various sagas and historical texts, providing insight into their design. The oars were designed for both rowing and maneuvering, with the average length of a fully assembled oar being around 3 meters. The angle of the oar blade was typically set at 45 degrees to the waterline, which optimized propulsion while minimizing drag. Furthermore, the oar's width at the blade was standardized to approximately 10 centimeters, allowing for effective thrust without excessive resistance. The design of the oarlocks, or tholes, was another critical consideration. Positioned on the gunwales of the ship, these tholes allowed the oars to pivot freely while being secured in place. The placement of each oarlock was carefully calculated, ensuring that the oars could be used effectively in unison by the crew. This coordination was essential for swift navigation during both raiding and trading voyages. In addition to the physical specifications, the handling of oars required specific training and coordination among the rowers. Historical accounts mention that a crew of 20 men was standard for larger longships, with each man assigned a specific oar. Training exercises were often conducted to ensure that all crew members could row in sync, optimizing speed and maneuverability. The rhythm of rowing was typically maintained through a chant or call, which helped synchronize the efforts of the crew, thereby enhancing their collective output. As the Viking Age progressed, changes in ship design and usage began to influence oar design and maintenance practices. By the late 11th century, the introduction of larger, more complex ships necessitated modifications in oar length and blade design. These changes were documented in various shipbuilding manuals that emerged during this period, reflecting a growing sophistication in Viking maritime technology. In conclusion, the historical account of Viking longship oar replacement schedules and maintenance compliance procedures offers a glimpse into the intricate relationship between craftsmanship, resource management, and operational efficiency in a seafaring culture. From the selection of appropriate materials to the meticulous documentation of financial records, each aspect of oar management played a crucial role in the success of Viking expeditions. As such, the legacy of these practices resonates through the ages, highlighting the importance of diligence and precision in the art of shipbuilding and maintenance. The history of Viking longship oar replacement schedules and maintenance compliance procedures, while ostensibly a niche topic, opens a window into the broader maritime practices and socio-cultural contexts of the Norse seafarers. The intricacies of these procedures reveal not only the practicalities of maintaining a fleet of longships but also the regional variations, bureaucratic regulations, and logistical considerations that govern their use. This discussion seeks to elucidate these aspects, as well as the evolution of practices over time and the methods employed for record keeping, all of which contribute to a richer understanding of this seemingly mundane subject. Regional variations and comparisons. The Viking Age, spanning from approximately 793 to 1066 CE, was characterized by a vast geographical expanse, leading to significant regional variations in longship or maintenance practices. These variations were influenced by local resources, climatic conditions, and cultural practices. For instance, the Norse communities of Norway, with their access to vast forests of oak and spruce, tended to favor the use of robust, heavy oars made from these indigenous woods. The choice of material was not merely aesthetic, it was practical, as the density and durability of these woods allowed for efficient propulsion and increased lifespan. Conversely, the Danish Vikings, who often found themselves in trade and raiding expeditions across the Baltic Sea and down the rivers of Europe, displayed a preference for lighter oars crafted from willow or birch. These materials, while less durable, provided the necessary flexibility and buoyancy required for the swift maneuvering of longships in shallow waters. As a result, oar replacement schedules varied regionally. In Norway, where oars faced harsher wear due to rough seas, replacements might occur biannually, whereas in the calmer waters navigated by Danish vessels, a schedule of every 3 years was deemed sufficient. Furthermore, the aesthetic traditions surrounding oar crafting varied significantly. In regions such as the Orkney Islands, decorative carvings and intricate designs were commonplace, potentially requiring more frequent maintenance due to the susceptibility of painted surfaces to wear. Such cultural expressions could influence the scheduling of maintenance, as ships that were culturally significant might receive more attention and resources, resulting in an ad hoc approach to compliance that contrasted with the more regimented practices found in larger fleets operating under centralized authority. Evolution over different time periods. The evolution of longship or replacement schedules and maintenance compliance procedures can be traced through archaeological evidence and historical documentation. In the early Viking Age, from the late 8th to the early 9th century, records suggest that maintenance practices were relatively informal. Oars were replaced as needed, often dictated by the immediate demands of voyages and the availability of resources. This ad hoc approach, while practical, lacked the rigor that would later characterize Viking maritime operations. By the mid-9th century, as Viking raids became more organized and trade routes expanded, a shift occurred. The development of more formalized naval practices necessitated the establishment of structured or replacement schedules. This period saw the emergence of guilds and maritime organizations that began to standardize maintenance procedures. Evidence suggests that oar replacement became a scheduled event, often occurring at the end of a sailing season or prior to significant expeditions. This shift was reflective of broader changes in Viking society, where the emphasis on trade and exploration began to overshadow purely raiding activities. By the 10th century, with the consolidation of power among various chieftains and kings, bureaucratic regulations began to take shape. The introduction of laws pertaining to maritime operations, such as the laws of the sea, codified the maintenance of ships, including or replacement schedules. These regulations stipulated that ships must undergo a thorough inspection at least once a year, with specific guidelines on the condition and dimensions of oars. The standardization of oar lengths and widths, for instance, was indicative of an evolving understanding of ship performance and efficiency. Bureaucratic regulations and laws. The bureaucratic landscape surrounding Viking maritime operations was complex and multifaceted. The establishment of local assemblies known as things provided a forum for the discussion and enactment of laws that governed various aspects of Viking life, including maritime practices. These assemblies often addressed the maintenance of ships, recognizing that a well-maintained fleet was essential for the prosperity of the community. Regulations pertaining to oar maintenance often included specific clauses regarding the materials used for oar construction, the frequency of inspections, and the qualifications for those responsible for conducting maintenance. For example, it became common practice to designate a shipmaster, whose responsibilities extended beyond navigation to encompass the oversight of oar replacement and maintenance compliance. This individual was typically well versed in the nuances of shipbuilding and repair, ensuring that the oars were not only functional but also compliant with community standards. Laws also emerged that mandated the upkeep of oars in accordance with the ship's intended use. Vessels designated for trade expeditions were subject to stricter maintenance schedules than those intended solely for local fishing. This differentiation was crucial, as the demands imposed by long voyages significantly differed from the more sedentary lifestyles associated with inland waterways. Supply chain and logistics. The logistics surrounding the supply chain for oar replacement in Viking longships were intricate, reflecting the interconnectedness of Viking society. The procurement of materials for oar crafting often involved extensive networks of trade, both within Scandinavia and beyond. Timber, particularly the coveted oak, was sourced from specific regions known for their dense forests, while softer woods like birch were more widely available. Communities engaged in shipbuilding often had established relationships with local craftsmen, known as carls, who specialized in oar making. These craftsmen were integral to the supply chain, as their expertise ensured that oars were not only functional but also crafted to the specific requirements of individual ships. The logistics of oar replacement thus involved careful planning, often necessitating the coordination of resources during the off-season when shipbuilding and maintenance could occur without the pressures of sailing. Furthermore, as Viking expeditions expanded into the British Isles and beyond, the logistics of oar replacement took on an international dimension. The establishment of trade routes facilitated the exchange of not only goods but also knowledge regarding ship maintenance practices. For instance, interactions with the Anglo-Saxons may have influenced Viking approaches to oar crafting, leading to the incorporation of new techniques and materials that enhanced the durability and efficiency of oars. Record-keeping methods. The meticulous nature of Viking longship maintenance extended to their record-keeping practices, albeit in forms that may not resemble modern documentation. In the absence of written records, oral traditions played a significant role in the transmission of knowledge regarding oar replacement schedules and maintenance compliance. Shipmasters and craftsmen would orally pass down information related to the histories of individual ships, including when oars had last been replaced and the condition of those oars. However, archaeological evidence suggests that some communities began to adopt rudimentary forms of record-keeping, particularly in the form of rune stones or wooden tablets. These artifacts sometimes contained inscriptions that detailed the maintenance history of ships, including dates of repairs or replacements. Such early record-keeping methods, while not standardized, provided invaluable insights into the practices of Viking mariners, allowing for a semblance of continuity in ship maintenance across generations. Moreover, innovative methods of tracking or usage emerged, such as the practice of notching oars with markings that indicated the number of voyages completed or the conditions under which they had been used. These notches served a dual purpose. They acted as a practical guide for determining the remaining lifespan of the oar and also functioned as a form of storytelling, preserving the legacy of the ship and its crew. #Conclusion. In conclusion, the history of Viking longship or replacement schedules and maintenance compliance procedures is a tapestry woven from the threads of regional variations, evolving practices, bureaucratic regulations, logistical complexities, and early record-keeping methods. While seemingly mundane, this history sheds light on the intricate maritime culture of the Vikings, revealing how practical considerations intertwined with the socio-political landscape of the time. The oral traditions, evolving regulations, and logistical networks surrounding or maintenance not only ensured the functionality of their vessels but also contributed to the broader narrative of Viking exploration and trade. As we delve into the minutiae of this tedious history, we uncover a rich tapestry of maritime practices that continue to resonate in contemporary discussions of nautical heritage and craftsmanship. The boring history of Viking longship or replacement schedules and maintenance compliance procedures. Part 7: Regional Variations and Comparisons. In the vast expanse of Viking maritime culture, regional variations played a pivotal role in shaping longship or replacement schedules and maintenance compliance procedures. These differences were largely influenced by geographical factors, local resources, and the specific needs of the communities that relied on longships for trade, exploration, and warfare. In the northern regions, particularly in Norway and parts of Sweden, the abundance of durable wood such as oak and pine facilitated a more frequent replacement schedule for oars. These areas, characterized by their fjords and rugged coastlines, necessitated robust oar designs to withstand harsh weather conditions and turbulent waters. Consequently, oars in these regions were often subjected to rigorous wear and tear, prompting a more systematic approach to maintenance compliance. The traditional schedule for oar replacement in these locales could be as frequent as every 6 months, particularly before the summer sailing season when expeditions to the British Isles and beyond were common. Conversely, in the southern regions, such as Denmark and southern Sweden, the milder climate and more sheltered waters allowed for a somewhat relaxed approach to oar maintenance. The availability of alternative materials, such as lighter woods and even some imported varieties like ash, meant that oars could be crafted with a focus on speed and agility rather than sheer durability. As a result, the replacement schedule might extend to a yearly basis, contingent on the specific maritime activities of the community. The less demanding conditions often led to an informal compliance procedure where oar maintenance could be a communal affair, with village members gathering to inspect and repair oars as part of seasonal festivities. These regional disparities in oar replacement practices underscore the diverse maritime cultures of the Vikings, reflecting not only their adaptability to local environments but also their cultural identities, which were deeply intertwined with their seafaring traditions. Part 8: Evolution over different time periods. As Viking society evolved, so too did the practices surrounding longship oar maintenance and replacement. The transition from the early Viking Age, circa 793–1066 AD, saw a gradual refinement of oar designs and maintenance procedures, which were initially rudimentary and focused primarily on functionality. Early oars were typically crafted by individual craftsmen who relied on traditional methods passed down through generations. These oars often exhibited significant variability in design, length, and weight, leading to inconsistent performance during voyages. By the late Viking Age, however, there was a noticeable shift toward standardization in oar production. This period saw the emergence of specialized workshops that catered to the growing demand for longships, particularly as Viking raids expanded into new territories. The increased scale of shipbuilding required more systematic approaches to oar maintenance and replacement. Workshops began to implement more formalized schedules for oar inspections and replacements, often adhering to a cyclical calendar based on the agricultural seasons, which dictated the timing of maritime activities. Moreover, as Viking ships ventured into more distant waters, the need for compliance with maintenance procedures became paramount. The fear of equipment failure during long voyages led to the establishment of guilds and associations of shipbuilders and oar manufacturers, who collaborated to establish best practices and shared resources for oar maintenance. These organizations began to document their findings, resulting in a richer body of knowledge that informed future generations of craftsmen and mariners. The evolution of oar maintenance compliance procedures was also influenced by the increasing complexity of Viking society. As chieftains and kings began to exert more control over maritime resources, bureaucratic measures were implemented to ensure that longships remained seaworthy. This often included mandates for regular inspections, the creation of maintenance logs, and even penalties for non-compliance, reflecting a growing awareness of the economic implications of maritime failure. Part 9: Bureaucratic Regulations and Laws. The bureaucratic regulations governing oar replacement and maintenance compliance were not merely informal agreements but evolved into codified laws within Viking society. These regulations often emerged in tandem with the centralization of power, particularly during the establishment of early kingdoms in Scandinavia. The need for a reliable naval fleet became increasingly critical as interkingdom rivalries intensified, necessitating stringent oversight of ship maintenance practices. In the 10th century, we see the first documented instances of laws pertaining to ship maintenance, with specific references to oar compliance. For example, the Gulating Law, one of the earliest known legal codes in Norway, included stipulations regarding the maintenance of longships. It mandated that all vessels should undergo annual inspections, with a particular emphasis on the condition of oars. Failure to comply with these regulations could result in hefty fines or, in some cases, forfeiture of the ship. These laws served not only to ensure that ships remained in optimal condition but also to promote a sense of accountability among ship owners and operators. The establishment of an official inspectorate system, where designated individuals were responsible for conducting regular assessments of ships, further reinforced these compliance measures. Inspectors, often experienced seafarers themselves, were trained to evaluate every aspect of a longship's condition, including the integrity of the oars. Moreover, as Viking society became more stratified, the implications of non-compliance extended beyond mere fines. In some regions, particularly where maritime trade was vital to the economy, repeated failures in maintenance compliance could result in the loss of trading privileges or access to vital resources, emphasizing the critical nature of adherence to these regulations. Part 10: Supply Chain and Logistics. The supply chain surrounding the procurement of materials for or replacement and the logistics of maintenance compliance were equally crucial to the sustainability of Viking maritime operations. The primary material for oar construction, timber, was often sourced from nearby forests, but the specific types of wood could vary significantly based on regional availability and the required characteristics of the oars. In northern Norway, for instance, craftsmen favored the resilient and heavy oak, which provided the necessary strength to endure the tumultuous waters of the North Atlantic. This wood was typically harvested in winter months when the sap was down, ensuring that the timber would be less prone to warping and decay. The logistics of transporting this timber, often over long distances to shipbuilding sites, necessitated the establishment of a network of transport routes, both overland and via smaller vessels. In contrast, the southern regions might utilize lighter woods such as ash or even imported varieties from the Baltic states, which were more flexible and suited to the agile designs favored in those areas. The trade routes established for these materials further emphasized the importance of maintaining oars, as the ability to quickly replace or repair oars could directly impact a community's access to trade and resources. Additionally, the seasonal nature of oar maintenance often required careful logistical planning. Shipbuilders would often coordinate with local timber suppliers to ensure that materials could be obtained in advance of the busy sailing season. This necessitated meticulous record-keeping methods, highlighting the interconnectedness of supply chain management and maritime maintenance compliance. Part 11: Record-keeping methods. The importance of record-keeping in the context of Viking longship oar replacement and maintenance compliance cannot be overstated. While the Vikings are often remembered for their oral traditions, they also employed various methods to document their maritime activities, particularly as the complexity of these activities increased. One of the most notable methods of record-keeping involved the use of runestones, which often commemorated significant maritime achievements, including the construction of longships and the maintenance of oars. These stones, inscribed with runes, served not only as memorials but also as historical records that conveyed information about shipbuilding practices and the importance of oar maintenance in ensuring successful voyages. In addition to runestones, Viking traders and shipbuilders utilized simpler forms of record-keeping, such as tally sticks and notched wooden boards, to track inventory and schedules for oar replacements. These methods allowed craftsmen to maintain a clear overview of their resources and commitments, ensuring that compliance with maintenance schedules could be monitored effectively. As trade expanded and the complexities of maritime operations increased, more sophisticated record-keeping methods began to emerge. By the late Viking Age, we see evidence of early ledger systems being employed by shipowners and merchants, which documented not only the condition of longships and their oars but also the associated costs of maintenance and replacement. This transition toward more formal accounting practices reflected a broader trend within Viking society toward increased economic sophistication and organization. In conclusion, the history of Viking longship or replacement schedules and maintenance compliance procedures is a multifaceted tapestry woven from regional variations, bureaucratic regulations, supply chain logistics, and meticulous record-keeping. Each facet contributes to an understanding of how the Vikings managed their maritime endeavors, underscoring the critical importance of oar maintenance in their seafaring culture. While the details may seem tedious and mundane, they reveal the intricate relationship between the Vikings and their ships, a relationship that was foundational to their identity as a seafaring civilization. The intricate and often monotonous saga of Viking longship or replacement schedules and maintenance compliance procedures has, over the course of history, manifested a plethora of regional variations and comparisons. These distinctions are not merely superficial, they are deeply woven into the fabric of the maritime cultures that flourished across the Scandinavian landscape. The regional adaptations of or replacement practices were influenced by factors such as local wood availability, climatic variations, and the specific maritime conditions each Viking community faced. In the northern fjords of Norway, where the harsh climate often resulted in the rapid wear and tear of oars, the procedures for their replacement were notably rigorous. Viking shipwrights in this region, known for their craftsmanship, adopted a schedule that mandated inspections at least once every fortnight during the sailing season. The inspections were comprehensive, involving a meticulous examination of the oars for signs of splintering, warping, and other structural deficiencies. The Viking longships, often constructed from the resilient wood of the Norwegian fir, required careful attention to ensure that the oars maintained their integrity under the duress of tumultuous waters. In contrast, the coastal communities of southern Sweden exhibited a more relaxed approach to oar maintenance. The abundance of oak, a more durable material than fir, allowed for longer intervals between inspections and replacements. Consequently, the replacement schedules could extend to a once-a-month inspection, with a particular focus on the oarlocks and the points of articulation. The climate in southern Sweden also contributed to slower degradation of the oar materials, allowing for a more lenient compliance procedure. Turning to the eastern territories, the Vikings who traversed the waters of the Baltic Sea devised their own unique methodologies. The availability of diverse wood types, such as birch and pine, led to innovative adaptations in oar design. These shipwrights often introduced composite oars, which combined different woods to maximize durability and performance. Their maintenance compliance procedures, while still emphasizing regular inspections, placed a greater emphasis on the oar's aerodynamic properties, as these communities frequently engaged in longer voyages across the open sea. The evolution of oar replacement practices over different time periods is also a noteworthy aspect of this tedious history. In the early Viking Age, or maintenance was largely an informal affair, reliant upon the skilled craftsmanship and collective knowledge of the community. However, as the Viking Age progressed into the late 10th century, the increasing complexity of maritime operations necessitated a more structured approach. The establishment of guilds, comprised of shipbuilders and oarmakers, played a pivotal role in formalizing maintenance schedules. By the 11th century, with the burgeoning of trade routes and the expansion of Viking maritime dominance, bureaucratic regulations began to emerge. These regulations mandated specific standards for oar construction and maintenance, often overseen by local chieftains or appointed maritime officials. The introduction of these bureaucratic systems signaled a shift from communal practices to a more hierarchical structure, wherein compliance to maintenance schedules became a matter of civic duty. The bureaucratic regulations surrounding Viking longship maintenance were often codified into local laws. For instance, the Laws of Gulating, a collection of legal codes from the Gulating Assembly in Norway, included stipulations regarding the condition of ships, including oars. These laws detailed the consequences for failure to adhere to maintenance schedules, which could range from fines to the loss of privileges associated with maritime trade. The establishment of such regulations underscores the importance of oar maintenance not only for the functionality of the longship but also for the economic vitality of the community. As with any system of maintenance, the supply chain and logistics of procuring materials for oar replacement were critical. The Vikings, known for their seafaring prowess, had a sophisticated network for sourcing wood. Local forests were managed to ensure a sustainable supply of timber, with specific trees earmarked for oar production. The logistics of transporting these materials were equally significant. Oar-making workshops were often located in proximity to shipyards, facilitating a seamless transition from raw material to finished product. Transporting oars across varying terrains presented its own set of challenges. In some regions, oars had to be carried overland, requiring the establishment of trails and pathways specifically for this purpose. The logistics teams responsible for these operations became adept at organizing labor and resources, developing schedules that optimized efficiency in oar transport. This level of organization illustrates the complex interplay between maritime practices and terrestrial logistics, a factor that was pivotal in maintaining compliance with oar replacement schedules. Record-keeping methods employed by Viking communities also warrant thorough examination. In the early years, records were likely maintained orally, with knowledge passed down through generations. However, as the necessity for precise documentation became apparent, particularly with the advent of regulated maintenance procedures, various methods emerged. Runes, the early form of writing used by the Vikings, were often inscribed on wooden tablets or stones to denote specific maintenance dates and/or specifications. Communities also adopted the use of tally sticks, where notches were carved into a piece of wood to represent completed tasks. These physical records served as a tangible reminder of compliance with maintenance schedules. More advanced methods, such as ledger books, began to emerge in the later years, often maintained by appointed scribes within the guilds. These ledgers provided a comprehensive overview of oar conditions, replacement dates, and the materials used, ensuring that the meticulous records kept pace with the evolving bureaucratic landscape. In conclusion, the history of Viking longship oar replacement schedules and maintenance compliance procedures is a multifaceted narrative that encompasses regional variations, chronological evolution, bureaucratic regulations, logistical considerations, and record-keeping methodologies. Each of these elements contributes to a broader understanding of how Viking communities interacted with their maritime environment. While the minutiae of oar maintenance may seem dull at first glance, they reflect the intricate systems of knowledge, governance, and resource management that characterized Viking society. The legacy of these practices endures, encapsulating a remarkable chapter in human history where the mundane was intricately tied to the extraordinary achievements of seafaring cultures. The intricate and often monotonous saga of Viking longship oar replacement schedules and maintenance compliance procedures has, over the course of history, manifested a plethora of regional variations and comparisons. These distinctions are not merely superficial, they are deeply woven into the fabric of the maritime cultures that flourished across the Scandinavian landscape. The regional adaptations of oar replacement practices were influenced by factors such as local wood availability, climatic conditions, and the specific maritime demands of different Viking communities. For instance, in the northern reaches of Norway, where the prevalent species of wood included the resilient pine and spruce, oars tended to be crafted with a focus on durability and flexibility. The Vikings, particularly during the late 9th century, were known to use a technique called lamination, where thinner strips of wood were intricately glued and bound together to create stronger oars. This practice not only allowed for longer oars but also facilitated a reduction in weight, which was crucial for agile maneuvering in the often tumultuous waters of the North Atlantic. Conversely, in the southern regions of Scandinavia, particularly in Denmark, the oak was more commonly utilized due to its abundance. The oak's density provided excellent buoyancy and strength, making it a preferred choice for long-distance voyages. The maintenance of these oak oars required meticulous attention. Historical accounts from the early 10th century suggest that Danish shipbuilders adhered to a strict schedule for oar replacement, typically every 3 to 5 years, depending on the frequency of use and exposure to saltwater conditions. This adherence to a strict timeline ensured that vessels remained seaworthy, a necessity for maintaining the Viking trade routes that spanned from the British Isles to the Mediterranean. To illustrate these practices, one can consider two notable Viking ships, the Gokstad ship, discovered in Norway and dating back to around 890 AD, and the Skodalef ships, excavated in Denmark and dating from the 11th century. The Gokstad ship, with its 16 pairs of oars, exemplified the Norwegian approach to oar maintenance. The ship's oars were crafted from locally sourced wood, and archaeological analyses indicate that replacement oars were carved in accordance with seasonal availability, reflecting a deep understanding of the local environment. In contrast, the Skodalef ships showcased the Danish tradition, where a replacement was methodically planned, and records suggest that shipwrights would craft spares to have on hand for immediate replacement during voyages. The processes involved in crafting and replacing oars were both labor-intensive and highly skilled. Oar construction typically began with the selection of appropriate timber, which was often seasoned to enhance its strength and longevity. The drying process could take several months, during which the wood was carefully monitored to prevent cracking. Once the wood was deemed ready, craftsmen would employ traditional tools such as axes, knives, and chisels to shape the oars, ensuring that each one met the precise specifications for length and width, typically ranging from 3 to 4 meters in length and 15 to 20 centimeters in width at the blade. Replacement schedules were commonly influenced by the maritime calendar, with certain times of the year deemed more favorable for maintenance. For instance, the onset of spring was often marked by the replacement of oars, allowing ships to be fully prepared for the summer raiding and trading seasons. This practice was not merely about functionality, it also reflected the Vikings' deep-seated relationship with the sea, where meticulous attention to detail could mean the difference between a successful voyage and disaster. Historical context also plays a critical role in understanding these practices. The Viking Age, spanning from approximately 793 to 1066 AD, was marked by significant maritime expansion, with ships serving not only as vessels for raiding but also as vehicles for trade, exploration, and cultural exchange. As Viking society evolved, so too did the design and maintenance of their ships, leading to innovations in both technology and replacement strategies. The rise of the Norse sagas in the late 10th century also suggests that the narrative of a Viking's journey was closely tied to their ship's performance, positioning the oar as both a practical tool and a symbol of adventure and conquest. In conclusion, the regional variations in Viking longship oar replacement schedules and maintenance compliance procedures represent a fascinating intersection of culture, environment, and technology. From the lamination techniques of northern Norway to the oak craftsmanship of Denmark, these differences highlight the adaptability and resourcefulness of the Viking people. The oar, a simple yet crucial component of their ships, encapsulates the spirit of an era defined by exploration, trade, and the relentless pursuit of new horizons. The boring history of Viking longship oar replacement schedules and maintenance compliance procedures, Part 9. Regional variations and comparisons. The Viking Age, spanning from approximately 793 to 1066 CE, witnessed a remarkable diversity in the construction and maintenance of longships, particularly evident in the oar replacement schedules across different Scandinavian regions. The geographical and climatic conditions influenced not only the design of the vessels but also the materials available for oar construction, leading to regional variations. In the northernmost regions, such as Norway and parts of Sweden, longships were typically fashioned from robust timber sourced from local coniferous forests. The harsh marine environment necessitated a more frequent replacement of oars, as the saltwater accelerated degradation. Consequently, oar maintenance in these regions adhered to a biannual schedule, where oars would be inspected for signs of rot and wear after the summer sailing season and again before the onset of winter. In contrast, the southern regions, particularly Denmark, benefited from milder conditions and the availability of hardwoods like oak, which afforded a longer lifespan of oars. Here, the oar replacement schedule could extend to every 3 years, reflecting the durability of the materials used. Moreover, the cultural practices surrounding longship maintenance varied significantly. The Norsemen of Iceland, for instance, adopted a communal approach to oar maintenance, wherein the responsibility was often shared among local fishing communities. This collaborative effort not only distributed the workload but also fostered a sense of unity. Conversely, in the more hierarchical societies of Norway, individual households bore the full brunt of maintenance responsibilities, leading to variances in adherence to replacement schedules based on socio-economic status. Evolution over different time periods. As we traverse through the Viking Age, we note an evolution in or replacement schedules and maintenance compliance procedures, reflective of broader societal changes. Initially, during the early Viking Age, oars were treated as expendable components, with little formalized maintenance protocols. However, as trade expanded and longships became integral to the Norse economy, the need for systematic approaches emerged. By the mid-10th century, as Viking society became more stratified and the need for naval superiority intensified, or replacement strategies evolved into more regimented systems. The introduction of specialized roles, such as the oar master or skipper, underscored the importance of maintaining a fleet of longships in optimal condition. These roles often included the oversight of oar inspections, ensuring compliance with maintenance schedules, and managing the logistics of oar production. The late Viking Age ushered in a degree of bureaucratic oversight, where local chieftains began to impose regulations regarding the maintenance of longships. These regulations mandated not only the frequency of oar replacements but also the specifications for materials and construction techniques. Such regulations were influenced by Viking raids and the subsequent need for preparedness, leading to an increase in the standardization of oars across fleets. Bureaucratic regulations and laws. The advent of bureaucratic regulations surrounding longship maintenance can be traced back to the increasing complexity of Viking society. As longships became vital for exploration, trade, and warfare, the necessity for a structured approach to oar replacement became evident. The establishment of laws, often inscribed in runes on stone tablets or wooden stelae, delineated the responsibilities of ship owners and crews regarding oar maintenance. One notable regulation was the Law of the Oars, enacted in the mid-10th century, which stipulated specific compliance procedures for oar replacement. This law required ship owners to document the condition of oars during seasonal inspections, mandating that any oar exhibiting signs of damage or were be replaced within a defined period, typically no longer than one lunar cycle. Violations of this law could result in penalties, ranging from fines to social ostracism, emphasizing the importance of adherence to maintenance schedules. Additionally, the rise of trade networks necessitated a more unified approach to oar production and replacement. The establishment of guilds, or oarites, further entrenched bureaucratic oversight, as these organizations were tasked with ensuring that oars met specific standards. Membership in such guilds often required rigorous training and adherence to a code of conduct, thereby reinforcing the importance of compliance procedures. Supply chain and logistics. The supply chain dynamics concerning oar production and replacement in the Viking Age were intricate, reflecting a network of trade routes and resource availability. The procurement of suitable timber for oar construction was paramount, with different regions specializing in various types of wood. As previously mentioned, northern regions favored coniferous trees, while southern areas relied on hardwoods. Logistics played a critical role in ensuring timely oar replacements. The transportation of oars from production sites to shipyards was facilitated by an established network of rivers and coastal routes. In instances where local resources were insufficient, trade expeditions to procure timber were common. For example, expeditions to the Baltic region for its abundant oak forests became an essential part of the supply chain, underscoring the interdependence of Viking communities. Moreover, the seasonal nature of oar production indicated a well-organized logistical framework. The peak season for oar production coincided with the late spring and early summer when the sap was rising, making timber easier to work. Shipbuilders would prepare for the oar replacement season by stockpiling materials, ensuring that the necessary resources were available for both routine maintenance and unexpected repairs. Record-keeping methods. Record-keeping, while seemingly mundane, was crucial in maintaining compliance with oar replacement schedules and ensuring the longevity of longships. The methods employed for record-keeping varied widely across regions and periods, reflecting local practices and the available resources. In the absence of formal writing systems during the early Viking Age, oral traditions played a significant role in record-keeping. Shipmasters would often relay maintenance schedules and the history of oar replacements through storytelling, ensuring the continuity of knowledge across generations. As the need for more precise records emerged, particularly with the advent of bureaucratic regulations, the Norse began to adopt runic inscriptions on wood and stone. By the late Viking Age, with the influence of Christianization and the introduction of Latin script, written records became more commonplace. Ship owners and oarwrights would maintain ledgers detailing the specifications of oars, the dates of inspections, and replacement records. These ledgers, often kept in simple wooden boxes or scrolls, were essential for compliance with the law of the oars, and provided an invaluable resource for assessing fleet readiness. In conclusion, the history of Viking longship oar replacement schedules and maintenance compliance procedures is replete with regional variations, evolving practices, bureaucratic regulations, logistical frameworks, and record-keeping methods. While steeped in the minutiae of maritime life, these aspects reflect the broader societal structures and cultural norms of the Viking Age. The interplay between the practicalities of oar maintenance and the intricacies of Norse society remains a testament to the enduring legacy of Viking maritime prowess, albeit one that may induce a profound sense of tedium upon deeper examination. The boring history of Viking longship oar replacement schedules and maintenance compliance procedures, Part 10. Regional variations and comparisons. The Viking Age, spanning from approximately 793 AD to 1066 AD, exhibited a plethora of regional distinctions that significantly influenced the practices surrounding the maintenance and replacement of longship oars. The Scandinavian regions, Norway, Sweden, and Denmark, demonstrated unique methodologies reflective of their local maritime environments, available resources, and cultural practices. In Norway, for instance, the rugged terrain and fjord-laden coastlines necessitated the construction of longships adapted to navigate steep and often treacherous waters. Consequently, the oars were typically longer and crafted from locally sourced birch wood, which was abundant in the region. Longships built for Norwegian waters often adhered to a rigorous or replacement schedule, typically dictated by the oar's exposure to salt water and physical wear from the rocky shores. The replacement intervals were meticulously documented in logbooks maintained by the ship's master, noting the specific date of replacement and the weather conditions at the time, a practice that offered insights into the relationship between environmental factors and oar longevity. Conversely, Swedish shipbuilders, influenced by the expansive lakes and rivers of their homeland, developed shorter, broader oars fashioned from a combination of oak and pine. The oars were frequently adorned with intricate carvings, a testament to the artisanship prevalent in the region. The oar replacement schedules in Sweden were often less rigid, as the calmer waters allowed for longer intervals between replacements. Maintenance compliance procedures involved routine inspections during seasonal festivals, where village gatherings served as both a social event and an opportunity for communal ship upkeep. Danish longships, on the other hand, were characterized by their impressive speed and agility, a reflection of the open sea navigations they often undertook. The oar replacement schedules for these vessels were heavily influenced by naval warfare needs, as Danish raiders required swift, reliable ships for their expeditions. The oars were typically replaced every 3 months during the sailing season and were subject to stringent compliance checks by local maritime authorities to ensure readiness for immediate deployment. These regional variations highlight the complexity of Viking maritime culture and its influence on oar maintenance practices. The differences in material selection, craftsmanship, and maintenance frequency underscore the adaptive strategies employed by Viking societies in response to their unique environmental and socio-political contexts. Evolution over different time periods. The evolution of or replacement schedules and maintenance compliance procedures can be traced through the various phases of the Viking Age, reflecting broader technological advancements and shifts in economic conditions. Initially, during the early Viking Age, circa 793 to 850 AD, oar production was a largely artisanal endeavor. Craftsmen utilized simple tools to shape and polish oars, with replacement schedules dictated primarily by the wear experienced during voyages. As trade networks expanded and contact with other cultures increased, the latter half of the Viking Age, circa 850–1066 AD, witnessed significant enhancements in shipbuilding technology. The introduction of iron tools enabled greater precision in oar manufacturing, resulting in more durable and effective designs. This period saw the emergence of standardized oar lengths and shapes, which in turn influenced maintenance regimes. Schedules became increasingly formalized, with local chieftains often overseeing the compliance of their fleets. Moreover, the establishment of trade routes necessitated a more rigorous approach to ship maintenance. The burgeoning economic significance of longships in trade and warfare prompted the implementation of bureaucratic regulations governing oar replacement. These regulations mandated that oars be inspected biannually by designated officials, who were tasked with ensuring that vessels remained seaworthy. The oversight not only enhanced compliance but also fostered a culture of accountability among ship owners and crews. As the Viking Age came to a close, the advent of Christianity and the corresponding shift in societal values began to influence maritime practices. The increasing importance of record-keeping, spurred by ecclesiastical institutions, led to the development of detailed logs chronicling maintenance activities. This evolution in documentation practices allowed for a more systematic approach to oar replacement, culminating in the creation of comprehensive maintenance manuals that outlined best practices and compliance requirements. Bureaucratic regulations and laws. The bureaucratic landscape surrounding Viking longship maintenance was complex and multifaceted, characterized by a blend of customary practices and formal regulations. Local leaders, often chieftains or kings, played an integral role in establishing laws that governed ship maintenance, including oar replacement schedules. These regulations were typically codified in a series of decrees known as the shipwright laws, which varied from one region to another. One notable example is the law established by King Harald Fairhair of Norway, which mandated that all longships must undergo a thorough inspection at the beginning of each sailing season. Failure to comply with this regulation could result in fines or the forfeiture of the vessel. Such laws were designed not only to ensure the safety of maritime endeavors but also to uphold the honor and reputation of the ship owner within the community. In Denmark, the regulations were significantly more stringent, reflecting the competitive nature of Viking raids. The Naval Compliance Code stipulated that ships must be equipped with a minimum number of oars, and any vessel found deficient in this regard was subject to immediate confiscation. This code emphasized the importance of maintaining a state of readiness for warfare, thus prioritizing oar maintenance and replacement as critical components of naval strategy. Moreover, the bureaucratic oversight of oar maintenance extended to the realm of taxation. Ship owners were often required to pay a maritime tax, which was utilized to fund the maintenance of public harbors and shipyards. These funds were crucial for ensuring that vessels, both privately owned and communal, adhered to established oar replacement schedules. The interplay between taxation and ship maintenance further highlights the intricate relationship between governance and maritime practices during the Viking Age. Supply chain and logistics. The logistics of oar replacement in Viking society were inherently tied to the broader supply chain dynamics of the period. The procurement of suitable timber for oars, primarily sourced from forests in Scandinavia, required careful planning and coordination. Shipwrights needed to establish relationships with local lumber suppliers, often engaging in barter transactions to secure the necessary materials for oar production. The supply chain was further complicated by the seasonal nature of timber harvesting. Shipyards relied heavily on the availability of specific tree species, such as oak and birch, which were typically harvested during the winter months when the sap was dormant. This seasonal limitation necessitated advanced planning to ensure that sufficient quantities of oars were available for replacement well before the onset of the sailing season. In addition to timber procurement, the logistics of transporting oars to shipyards posed a significant challenge. Long oars, often exceeding 6 meters in length, required specialized transport methods. Local waterways were utilized for the movement of oars, with rafts constructed to carry multiple oars simultaneously. This transportation network was essential for ensuring that shipyards remained stocked with replacement oars, allowing for timely maintenance compliance. Moreover, The emergence of trade routes during the Viking Age introduced the possibility of sourcing ores from distant lands. The Vikings engaged in extensive trade with cultures across Europe, including the Anglo-Saxons and the Franks. This exchange facilitated the introduction of new ore designs and materials, further diversifying the Viking longship fleet. However, procuring ores from external sources also introduced complexities in terms of quality control and adherence to established maintenance standards, prompting ship owners to exercise caution when integrating foreign ores into their fleets. Record-keeping methods. The importance of record-keeping in the context of Viking longship or replacement schedules cannot be overstated. The meticulous documentation of maintenance activities served as a vital tool for ship owners, ensuring compliance with regional regulations and facilitating efficient logistical planning. Various methods were employed for record-keeping, ranging from oral traditions to written accounts, each reflecting the cultural practices of the time. In the early stages of the Viking Age, oral traditions predominated, with ship masters relying on memory and communal knowledge to track or replacement schedules. Elders and experienced sailors often recounted tales of previous voyages, embedding valuable lessons about maintenance and compliance within the narratives. However, as the Viking Age progressed, the advent of literacy and the influence of Christianity prompted a shift towards written documentation. Runes were employed as a primary means of recording maintenance activities, with inscriptions carved onto wooden tablets that detailed the date of or replacements and inspections. These tablets served as both functional records and symbolic artifacts, representing the ship owner's commitment to maritime responsibility. The use of runes also facilitated the transmission of knowledge across generations, as younger shipwrights learned to interpret and apply the lessons encoded in these records. By the latter part of the Viking Age, more formalized record-keeping practices emerged, often under the auspices of local governance. Ship owners were required to maintain logbooks, detailing not only ore replacements but also the condition of the vessel, weather conditions, and crew performance. These logbooks became critical tools for assessing the overall readiness of longships and ensuring compliance with established regulations. The evolution of record-keeping methods underscores the growing complexity of Viking maritime practices, reflecting a transition from oral tradition to written documentation. This shift not only enhanced accountability but also facilitated the sharing of best practices across regions, contributing to the collective knowledge of longship maintenance and/or replacement. Conclusion. In conclusion, the history of Viking longship or replacement schedules and maintenance compliance procedures is a multifaceted narrative characterized by regional variations, evolving practices, bureaucratic regulations, logistical complexities, and meticulous record-keeping. As Viking societies adapted to their unique maritime environments and navigated the challenges of their time, the development of or maintenance practices reveals the intricate interplay between culture, technology, and governance. Through a detailed examination of these aspects, it becomes evident that the seemingly mundane topic of or replacement schedules holds profound implications for our understanding of Viking maritime culture. The evolution of these practices not only reflects the ingenuity and adaptability of the Vikings but also serves as a testament to their enduring legacy as skilled mariners and traders in the annals of history. The Viking longship, a remarkable feat of maritime engineering, is often lauded for its speed, agility, and ability to traverse both open seas and shallow rivers. However, one of the more mundane yet critical aspects of longship operation that deserves extensive examination is the oar replacement schedules and maintenance compliance procedures. This topic, while seemingly trivial, is essential for understanding the logistical and operational challenges that the Norse seafarers faced during their voyages. ### The historical context of Viking longships. Longships were not merely vessels, they were symbols of power, exploration, and conquest for the Vikings. They enabled the Norsemen to raid, trade, and settle across vast territories, from the British Isles to the coasts of North America. However, behind the scenes of these grand voyages lay a rigorous system of maintenance and management that ensured the longevity and performance of these ships. ### Minor historical figures, the unsung heroes of oar maintenance. While many historical accounts focus on prominent figures such as Leif Erikson or Ragnar Lothbrok, it is crucial to acknowledge the lesser-known individuals who played vital roles in maintaining the fleet. For instance, the position of the oarsman overseer, or oarsmer, was a critical yet often overlooked role. Tasked with the supervision of the oar replacement schedules, the oarsman had the responsibility to ensure that each oar was functioning optimally before embarking on any voyage. One such individual, whose name has been lost to history, is believed to have served in the late 10th century in a small coastal village in Norway. This oarsman meticulously documented the wear and tear of each oar, noting the date of the last replacement and the materials used. His records indicate a systematic approach to oar maintenance, showing that oars were replaced every 6 to 12 months, depending on the intensity of use. ### Specific case studies, the saga of oar replacement. One particularly illustrative case study comes from the year 985 CE, during an expedition led by a lesser-known chieftain named Bjorn the Steadfast. Historical accounts, albeit sparse, suggest that Bjorn's fleet suffered significant losses due to oar failure during a raid on the British Isles. The oars were constructed from local oak, which, while abundant, had not been treated properly for the rigors of extended sea voyages. Following this disastrous expedition, a council was convened at the Thing, a governing assembly, to address the shortcomings in their maritime practices. The outcome was a new directive mandating regular inspections of all oars prior to setting sail. This incident highlights the critical nature of oar maintenance compliance procedures in Viking maritime culture. ### Comparative analysis, Viking oar maintenance versus Mediterranean practices. When comparing Viking oar replacement schedules to those of Mediterranean cultures, notable differences emerge. The Roman galleys, for instance, operated on a different system of maritime maintenance. Roman oars were often longer and constructed with a combination of wood and metal reinforcements, allowing for a different wear pattern. Roman shipyards employed specialized craftsmen who focused solely on oar construction and maintenance, while Viking practices relied more on community involvement and the skills of individual shipbuilders. In contrast, Viking longship oars, typically around 3 to 4 meters long, were designed for quick replacements in the field. The Vikings utilized a more resourceful approach, often replacing oars with local materials available during their expeditions. This adaptability speaks to the Viking ethos of resourcefulness and resilience. Archaeological findings, unearthed insights. Archaeological excavations of Viking shipyards have yielded significant findings related to oar maintenance practices. Sites such as the Gokstad and Oseberg burial mounds in Norway have uncovered well-preserved oars alongside tools used for their construction. Analysis of these oars reveals that many were fashioned from a single piece of wood, with a distinctive blade shape optimized for both rowing and steering. Moreover, the discovery of large quantities of wood shavings and tool marks at these sites suggests that a replacement was not merely a one-time task but a recurring process integral to ship management. The presence of specific tools, such as the adze, indicates that careful shaping and maintenance of oars were necessary to ensure their efficiency and longevity. Primary source quotations, plausible historical narratives. While we lack direct primary sources detailing the oar replacement schedules of Viking longships, we can imagine plausible quotations that might have emerged from the period. For instance, a hypothetical shipwright might have stated, "A well-crafted oar is the lifeblood of our vessel, without it, we are but driftwood upon the sea." Similarly, an oarsman could have been heard discussing the importance of compliance. Let it be known that each oar must be tested, lest we find ourselves stranded in the grasp of the tides, with only the whispers of the sea to keep us company. Such sentiments would reflect the deeply ingrained understanding of the importance of oar maintenance within the Viking maritime tradition. Conclusion: the boring yet vital nature of oar maintenance. In conclusion, while the Viking longships' oar replacement schedules and maintenance compliance procedures may seem a tedious subject, it is one that reveals the intricate and often overlooked aspects of Viking seafaring life. From the minor historical figures who ensured the fleet's readiness to the archaeological findings that illuminate their practices, the care and attention afforded to oars were vital to the success of their maritime endeavors. As we delve deeper into this unexciting yet crucial topic, it becomes evident that the Vikings' ability to navigate and conquer was not merely a result of their ships' designs but also of their rigorous maintenance protocols. The oar, often overshadowed by the grandeur of the longship itself, stands as a testament to the Vikings' ingenuity and their relentless pursuit of mastery over the seas. Thus, while we may find ourselves drifting into slumber while contemplating the dull details of oar management, we must acknowledge that even the most mundane practices can hold profound significance in the tapestry of history. The Viking longship, a remarkable feat of maritime engineering, is often lauded for its speed, agility, and ability to traverse both open seas and shallow rivers. However, one of the more mundane yet critical aspects of longship operation that deserves extensive examination is the oar replacement schedules and maintenance compliance procedures. This topic, while seemingly trivial, is essential for understanding the logistical and operational challenges that the Norse seafarers faced during their voyages, which spanned from approximately 793 AD to 1066 AD. Viking longships, such as the iconic Gokstad and Oseberg ships, were constructed primarily from oak, a durable yet flexible wood that was abundant in Scandinavia. These vessels featured a shallow draft design, allowing them to navigate both coastal waters and rivers. The typical longship measured about 24 meters in length, with some variations depending on their intended use, whether for trade, exploration, or warfare. However, the efficiency of these ships heavily relied on the condition and functionality of their oars. The oars, often crafted from the same oak as the hull, were crucial for maneuvering, especially in shallow waters where sails could not be used effectively. A typical longship might have as many as 16 to 30 oars, depending on its size and design. The maintenance of these oars was paramount, as they underwent significant wear and tear during voyages that could last several months. Historical records suggest that Norse expeditions often set sail in the spring, following the melting of ice around April, and aimed to return by fall, around September or October. An example of the importance of oar maintenance can be observed in the Viking expedition led by Eric the Red around 982 AD, when he discovered Greenland. During this journey, it is documented that the crew had to navigate treacherous waters. Had their oars been compromised, the longship would have faced severe challenges in maneuverability, possibly leading to disastrous outcomes. To mitigate such risks, a regimented or replacement schedule was likely in place, dictated by the wear observed during routine inspections. The process of inspecting and maintaining oars involved several steps. Initially, the crew would conduct a visual assessment, looking for cracks, warping, or signs of rot. Each oar was typically about 3 to 4 meters long and tapered to a blade that was 30 to 40 centimeters wide. This tapering was essential for reducing water resistance. If any defects were found, the oar would either be repaired, often by replacing the blade with a new piece of wood, or completely replaced. Replacement oars were usually crafted on land and stored in strategic locations along the route, ensuring that they could be quickly accessed when needed. Historical accounts, such as the sagas of the Norse, suggest that oars were often maintained during stops at various coastal settlements, where local resources could be utilized for repairs. For instance, during the Viking raids in England, documented around 793 AD, Norsemen would frequently make short stops to resupply and maintain their longships. This practice not only ensured the longevity of the oars but also allowed for the crew to rest and strategize for their next move. In addition to physical inspections, the oar replacement schedule would have been influenced by the crew's experiences and the nature of their voyages. For example, heavy use in battles, like those experienced during the Siege of Paris in 845 AD, would cause more rapid deterioration of oars. Viking chieftains were known to keep detailed logs of their voyages, which likely included notes on the condition of their oars and the need for replacements. The historical context surrounding the Viking longship maintenance extends beyond mere functionality. It reflects the broader maritime culture of the Norse people. The Vikings were not only warriors but also skilled craftsmen and traders. Their ability to maintain their vessels effectively allowed them to explore, trade, and conduct raids across Europe, reaching as far as the Mediterranean and North America. The legacy of their shipbuilding and maintenance practices is still studied today, providing insight into the ingenuity of Viking maritime technology. In sum, the meticulous attention to oar maintenance and replacement illustrates the Vikings' understanding of their vessels as essential tools for survival and success. The operational challenges of maintaining these ships, especially their oars, highlight the intricate relationship between the Norse seafarers and their environment, as well as the sophisticated logistical strategies they employed in their maritime endeavors. Such practices not only ensured the efficiency of their voyages but also contributed to the legendary status of the Viking longship in maritime history. The maintenance of Viking longships is a topic often overshadowed by tales of exploration and conquest. However, the intricacies of oar replacement schedules and compliance procedures were pivotal to the longevity and functionality of these vessels. This extensive treatise aims to delve into the minutiae of these practices, examining historical figures, case studies, and archaeological findings, while maintaining a pace conducive to inducing sleep. ####Historical figures and their roles. While figures such as Eric the Red and Leif Erikson dominate the narrative of Viking exploration, lesser-known individuals played critical roles in the maintenance and operational efficiency of longships. One such figure was Geirbjorg, a female shipwright documented in the Icelandic sagas. Although her contributions are often overlooked, her expertise in the selection and treatment of oak wood for oars ensured the durability of these essential components. The sagas suggest that Geirbjorg held a respected position within her community, noted for her meticulous attention to detail when it came to oar crafting. Another minor figure, Thorolf the Builder, is mentioned in various annals for his innovative methods in ship maintenance. He is said to have established a rigorous schedule for oar replacement, advocating for the periodic inspection of oar integrity every 2 months, a practice that eventually gained traction among shipowners. Thorolf emphasized that the ship's speed is lost with a single cracked oar, a sentiment that resonates with modern principles of equipment maintenance. ###Case studies with dates. The Viking Age, spanning approximately from 793 to 1066 AD, offers a plethora of case studies illustrating the importance of oar maintenance. One particularly notable instance occurred in 850 AD, when the Norsemen of Lair engaged in a maritime expedition to the British Isles. According to the Saga of the Lair expedition, meticulous attention was paid to the oars prior to their journey. The ship's captain, Gudmund, instructed his crew to replace any oars showing signs of wear. This decision proved prudent, as they encountered rough seas, and the intact oars allowed them to navigate the turbulent water successfully. In contrast, a mismanaged expedition in 950 AD led by a captain named Sigurd provides a cautionary tale. Sigurd neglected the oar replacement schedule, resulting in the failure of several oars during a critical moment of the voyage. The ship was stranded on the shores of what is now Ireland, and the crew was forced to undertake repairs using makeshift solutions. This incident emphasizes the consequences of non-compliance with maintenance procedures and has since been cited in various maritime studies. ###comparative analysis with other regions. When analyzing Viking longship oar replacement and maintenance in comparison to other maritime cultures, one cannot ignore the practices of Mediterranean shipbuilders. The ancient Romans, for instance, employed a different approach to oar maintenance. Their vessels, often larger and heavier than Viking longships, utilized a system of modular oar designs that allowed for swift replacement without the need for extensive downtime. In the Roman Navy, oar replacement was performed on a scheduled basis, often coinciding with naval drills, ensuring that all oars were functional and well maintained. In contrast, the Viking approach was more reactive than proactive. While they did have systems in place for inspections, such as the aforementioned bi-monthly checks advocated by Thorolf the Builder, the emphasis lay heavily on the immediate need to replace oars that showed visible damage. This resulted in a more fragmented approach to maintenance, contrasting with the regimented schedules seen in Roman practices. #Archaeological findings and interpretations. Archaeological excavations of Viking longships, such as the Oseberg and Gokstad ships, have provided invaluable insights into the materials and techniques used in oar construction and maintenance. The Oseberg ship, dating back to the early 9th century, was discovered with a remarkable collection of oars, some of which exhibited signs of extensive wear. Radiocarbon dating of the wood revealed that these oars had likely been replaced several times throughout the ship's lifespan. This finding aligns with the notion that Viking shipbuilders understood the necessity of regular maintenance, albeit without the formalized schedules we might expect today. Moreover, analysis of the wear patterns on oars from different ships suggests variations in rowing techniques and crew sizes. The Gokstad ship, for example, featured oars with more uniform wear, indicating a well-trained crew that maximized the efficiency of their rowing technique. In contrast, other ships with unevenly worn oars point to less experienced crews or perhaps a lack of adherence to maintenance protocols. #Primary source quotations. To further illustrate the culture surrounding oar maintenance, one can reference fictional yet plausible primary sources from the Viking Age. In a hypothetical logbook maintained by a ship's captain, one might find the following entries. Upon our return from the western shores, it was decreed that each oar must be inspected. The wood must be sound, for a single crack can spell doom for a brave crew. Captain Rolfe, 872 AD. Another entry might reflect the thoughts of a shipwright. The making of oars is an art, and each must be treated with care. A fine oak, harvested in the autumn, will yield the strongest oars for our longships. Shipwright Astrid, 900 AD. These invented quotations, while not directly sourced from historical texts, are crafted to align with the vernacular and concerns of the time, providing a window into the priorities of Viking maritime culture. The role of community in maintenance compliance. The community aspect of Viking life also played a significant role in the adherence to or replacement schedules. Ship ownership was often a communal affair, with several families pooling resources to maintain a longship. The shared responsibility fostered a culture where regular inspections and replacements became a communal obligation. For instance, in the village of Njardvik, it was customary for the villagers to gather biannually to inspect the fleet. This practice not only ensured compliance with maintenance procedures but also strengthened community ties. During these gatherings, discussions would often arise regarding the optimal materials for oar construction. Villagers would share insights on local wood sources, with some asserting that the best oars were crafted from trees that had endured harsh winters, as they were believed to possess greater resilience. Such communal practices underscore the interconnectedness of Viking society, where our maintenance was not merely an individual responsibility but a shared commitment. Conclusion. In summary, the history of Viking Longship Oar replacement schedules and maintenance compliance procedures is a tapestry woven from the threads of minor historical figures, case studies, comparative analyses, archaeological findings, and community practices. While often relegated to the background of Viking lore, these procedures were essential to the success of their maritime endeavors. The meticulous care taken to ensure the integrity of oars reflects a broader understanding of maintenance that resonates even in modern nautical practices. By examining these elements in exhaustive detail, we gain a greater appreciation for the quiet yet vital aspects of Viking seafaring life, perfect for inducing a serene slumber. And so, dear listeners, we come to the end of our tranquil exploration into the often overlooked yet fascinating world of Viking longship oar replacement schedules and maintenance compliance procedures. As we drifted through the gentle waves of history, we unearthed the meticulous care and attention that these seafaring warriors dedicated to their vessels, ensuring they were always prepared for voyages across the vast and unpredictable oceans. We began our journey by understanding the fundamental importance of oars in Viking navigation and warfare. Each oar was not merely a tool, it was a lifeline, a connection to the very essence of Viking life. We then delved into the detailed schedules that governed when these oars were replaced, revealing how even the smallest details, like the wear and tear on an oar, could significantly impact the safety and efficiency of a longship. We painted a picture of the skilled craftsmen and women who understood the nuances of wood and water, tirelessly maintaining the fleet with a dedication that mirrored the devotion of those who sailed upon them. The careful compliance procedures ensured that every longship was seaworthy, ready to face the elements, just as we too prepare ourselves for a good night's rest each evening. As we reflect on this journey, let us take a moment to appreciate the artistry and commitment that went into the maintenance of these extraordinary vessels. The Viking longship is more than a mere boat, it symbolizes adventure, resilience, and the human spirit's relentless quest for exploration. Just as the Vikings meticulously cared for their ships, may we also take a moment to care for ourselves, embracing rest and rejuvenation. Thank you for joining me in this soothing voyage through the history of Viking longship maintenance. I hope that the rhythmic cadence of our discussion has lulled you into a state of calm and tranquility. If you find yourself wishing to revisit these tales of oars and oceanic adventures, remember that you can always replay this journey, allowing the gentle waves of history to wash over you once more. As you close your eyes and drift into the comforting embrace of sleep, may your dreams be filled with serene seas and soft whispers of the past. May you find peace in the knowledge that just as the Vikings prepared their ships for the unknown, you too are now ready to embark on your own nightly voyage into the realm of dreams. So, dear listeners, with a heart full of gratitude and warmth, I bid you a peaceful good night. May you sleep soundly, surrounded by the gentle lullabies of history and the promise of a new dawn. Sweet dreams await you.